So, you want to be a hunter. You want to put meat on the table. Well, I'm here to help you today. Best practices, tips, and tricks. Where to get started. Welcome to the podcast, where we tackle this topic and, God willing, many more the right way with God Almighty at the center, biblical Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. On that, military, law enforcement, private security, contracting, and a whole lot of hunting experience. Started hunting when I was a young boy. Been blessed to hunt all over this beautiful country, from the southeast to Alaska. From white-tailed deer on the east coast to mule deer on the west coast, and elk and bear and wolf. And I've even guided, professionally hunted and guided. Hunting is a subject that I love, and a discipline and a pursuit that I'm blessed to be able to do. And I'm here to serve you guys. I want to share that with you and get more people into it. You know, if you don't have a mentor, you don't have somebody good to take you or show you the ropes. And on that, I'm going to start with a bit of encouragement. That's nothing new, right? You might think that, especially if you're not a big student of history, you might think that, the people that landed in Jamestown or Plymouth Rock, they were hardcore hunters hacking their way in the wilderness. And they weren't. A lot of them were city slickers. A lot of them came from, 1600s Europe. Hunting for the average person, for the elite, it was like a sporting thing. But for the average person, it was the king's game. You weren't hunting, right? You were a peasant living in a town or a village or something. Hunting wasn't part of their daily life. They weren't out there hunting. So when they came here, they had to learn it. And believe it or not, people learn stuff before social media. People learn stuff before, search engines and before the internet. People learn stuff a lot of times the hard way. If they could do it, you can do it. A little bit of encouragement there. Your forefathers learned it probably several times over in history from scratch. So you can too, right? If you have the desire and will by God's grace, you can learn it just the same. So that's a bit of encouragement. Okay, where to start is with the where. Get a map, or if you want to go online or whatever, find places you can hunt. Find public land, or you may have to start knocking on doors and asking where you can hunt. If you live on the East Coast, there's not a lot of public land, east of the Mississippi River. There's some. You need to find it and figure out where you can hunt. And so that's the big one. Where you can hunt, where you're going to be able to hunt. If you know that you're not going to have a lot of time away from work, you're going to need to find places where you can drive in an afternoon or in a morning or on a weekend, right? So you need to figure that out. If you're planning on taking time off, that's different. But you should think about that now. And in my experience, generally closer is better. I live where I live on purpose, and I've turned down higher paying jobs and left higher paying jobs to be able to live where I live, because I can hunt elk in the backyard. I can take off from my house and hunt elk. That's important to me, because I know that I'll get more hunting in just with life and all the other responsibilities and all the other things a man has to do. I'll get more hunting in if I can do it closer to home. So when you're looking for hunting spots, I would say, if you can, at least have one or two closer to home. If you want to go somewhere else or somewhere you just want to go because it's more beautiful or bigger public land, go ahead. But my advice is try and find some close to home. You can hunt, after work or on a weekend, at least. So find out where you can hunt. Get a map. And then go there. You might think hunting starts the first day of hunting season, but no, hunting starts right now. Scouting, reconnoitering, reconnaissance, right? Go look. Go check out the area. Go walk around. And use your brain that God gave you, common sense. To the uninitiated, you may think that there's a square mile of forest or marsh or desert or wherever you're looking at, and the animals are just frolicking around like Disney, evenly distributed on the land. But they're not. Just like, I wouldn't do this because it'd be creepy, but if I monitored your phone, right, and you have a 1,500 square foot house, you probably don't spend your time throughout the day and night where you live, you probably don't spend your time evenly distributed in every square foot of your house. Like, I'm in this section this time for an hour, and this section and this time for an hour. You probably spend the vast, vast majority of your time in a few square feet of your house. In your bed, in your bedroom, or, if you have a couch and a TV. I don't, but if you do, like on your couch in front of the TV, and then, in the bathroom in the morning and in the evening, right? And that's probably a very small portion of your square footage in the much larger part of your house. Some parts of your house, like your attic, you probably almost never go, right? Animals are the same way on the landscape. It might go from a bedding area to food to water, and then back to the bedding area most of the time. If there's nothing to eat or drink or anything they need or want, they're not going to waste time going there. They're trying to survive, right? They're not going to do anything superfluous. It's a waste of calories. And they're likely going to find the easiest or most concealed routes to go from one place to another. So you need to figure that out and think about that and watch for it. And when you just put that in your brain, use your common sense, right? You can figure it out. Even if you've never hunted before, you probably know what a deer track looks like, right? You might not be able to tell the difference yet between a big buck and a doe, but you can figure out what a deer track looks like, and you can probably see where they go often just by walking around the land. So get out there and check it out and look for whatever you plan on hunting. Quail, doves, deer, whatever it is, right? Just keep your eye out. Use the common sense. Use deductive reasoning. You can do it. So get out there on the landscape. Carry a compass with you. Most places east of the Mississippi, which is where most of you guys live, you're probably going to have cell service even if you get out where you're going to hunt. Most places on the East Coast have cell service, even when you get out hunting. Not everywhere, but yeah. Carry a compass just in case when you take off from your vehicle or wherever you start from. Shoot an azimuth. Just take your compass out and look at what degrees you're going roughly. But, just keep it simple. And then when you want to go back, add or subtract 180 degrees from that, whatever's easier, and then go that direction. Even if you get turned around, likely, in most places, if you walk in a straight line long enough, you're going to hit a road or something like that. So, but get out there. Walk around on the landscape. A big part of this will just be comfortable being uncomfortable. A lot of people today live and even work in places that are climate controlled. Like you're never too hot. You might complain about, I'm chilly because it's 68 degrees and I want it to be 70 on a thermostat at work. But most people spend a lot of time in climate controlled places. Nature, right? The landscape, being outside, it doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care if you want it hot or you're too hot or too cold. It doesn't care. So you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable, being comfortable knowing how to regulate your own body temperature with things like clothing and dressing sensibly, not with what looks cool or what some influencer is pushing or what's in style or, whatever. Leave the skinny jeans at home. Dress practically. And this is going to be different. I'm recording this in the summer. I might play it again later. But you're going to have to dress differently, obviously, in the summer than in the winter. But you're going to understand that you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable and how you can fix that. And just being comfortable being out in the woods, being out in a landscape without straight lines and 90-degree angles. Get comfortable with that. That'll take a big load off when it comes to hunting because you're already comfortable in that environment. All right, so you got the where. Next, you have to worry about legality. So and this can be super complicated in some states and super easy in others. As much as I love where I live, out west, it's like trying to decipher or crack the Enigma machine in World War II, trying to figure out where you can legally hunt because, the state has 60 or something different zones and different animals within that zone and different sexes for the same animal within that zone, different days, you can hunt this animal here, but if you cross this stream, you're now illegal. That stuff can be daunting. So try and figure that stuff out now. So you're not trying to rush to do it before hunting season. Some places it's easy. It's between this state and this state, you can hunt this many deer. Or, dove season starts here. This is the bag limit. This is how many doves you can take in a day. And it ends this day. But sometimes it's super simple. Sometimes it's not. But try and figure that out. Start looking into that now. The legalities, identification, if it's, something that might have some nuance, especially a lot of times with fowl, if you can have this many ducks or this many of this duck, but you can't have any of this duck. When you get out on the landscape and start looking around, or even looking at pictures, make sure you can identify what kind this is versus what kind that is. You might have 2 or 3 different species of quail, and some are good, and some have several, you can have in a day bag limit, and some you can't shoot at all. So you should probably know that. And the legalities. How do you get a hunting license? Do you need to take hunter's ed? Should start figuring that stuff out now and get that out of the way now, so you're not trying to cram it later. The closer it gets to hunting season, the more you should probably focus on the actual taking of the game. So there's that. Focus on the legality. The government has decided that you need their permission or whatever to hunt this thing or that thing in this season or that season. So you got to deal with that. Okay, we got the where, we got the legality stuff. I know you guys are going to want me to talk about gear. The first thing I'm going to start out with is footwear, because you have to actually get there, right? Footwear. And I'm going to start with socks. Socks are super important. Unless you live somewhere where it's going to be, 75 degrees when you're hunting, stay away from cotton socks, stay away from cotton socks, stay away from cotton socks. Growing up, I hunted and I loved hunting, but I was miserable a lot of the time. And because it was just I just took what I had because I was a poor kid. And I was I wore cotton socks. Even if I had a big pair of rubber boots, it was wear 2 pair of cotton socks or wear extra cotton socks. Okay, that doesn't really help. So I'm trying to help you. Don't wear cotton socks. Get wool socks, 100% wool socks. I like alpaca wool, but you can do whatever. If you're going to be walking a lot, you might get a pair of really tight-fitting 100% nylon socks that are really thin, and you might put wool socks over that to help with blisters. But wool socks, you're going to want wool socks. 100% merino wool, 100% alpaca wool, or wool socks. And then boots. And this is going to depend on your environment, right? Use common sense. That's why I said go walk around the woods now. Is it going to be super wet? And you probably live, if you're hunting somewhere close to where you live, you probably know, is there going to be a bunch of dew on the ground, even if you're not crossing water, if you're walking around on the grass or the forest in the fall, or is it pretty dry? This is going to determine what kind of footwear you want or need. But get appropriate footwear. If you're not real sure, a good pair of neoprene rubber mid-calf boots are a good all-around for a bunch of different environments. They'll work pretty well, and they'll keep your feet pretty warm if you have the appropriate socks and they fit appropriately. Maybe not the best if you're doing, 10, 20 miles a day, but that's probably not what most people are going to start out hunting. So, but you may not even need that. You may be able to hunt with something else. So figure out the footwear. That's going to be really dependent on where you live. Obviously, footwear is going to be different if you live in West Texas versus if you live in Georgia versus if you live in Wyoming. But figure out the sensible footwear. That's important. And I'm telling you that now. And first you can get it and start breaking it in and working with it so you're not wearing it the first week of hunting season. Then you got bloody feet your first or second day, and then you're out for the rest of the season. Or you're just miserable for the rest of the season. So get that footwear, break it in, have it so you can start wearing it before hunting season so it's ready for hunting season. So there's that. Get the footwear. Footwear is important. Clothing. Don't freak out about the camo, right? Don't if you want camo, that's fine. Just pick a camo. I know that marketing would have you believe mossy oak is better than realtree or Kuyu is better than Sitka or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you want camo, pick camo. There's nothing wrong with camo. If you find a good, comfortable garment of the appropriate construction and material, camo, fine. Whatever color it is, fine. I mean, probably don't wear snow camo if you're hunting a deep, dark forest. But unless you go to the ridiculous, just camo is fine. If you don't want camo, that's fine too. Just get a good, natural, matte color. Khaki. browns, greens. I'd stay away from blue because, a lot of animals can see blue. Even if they're somewhat colorblind, blue is one of the colors they can usually see. But stay away from that. And a lot of times you're going to have to, especially in crowded places, you're going to have to wear orange anyway. So, and focus less on the color and the camo, focus more about the construction. Depending on the climate, 100% polyester, 100% wool, but focus on construction and focus on being comfortable and warm and or cool, depending on where you hunt. But most places you're going to want to focus on staying warm. Also, focus on garments that are quiet, meaning like when you go to the store, rub them against each other. If it's super loud, probably you want to stay away from that. But something like 100% wool or a fleece, those are usually pretty quiet. That might be something you want to think about. All right, once you have that area and you are, you got your clothing picked out, you've got your legality stuff picked out, start thinking about how you're going to hunt. There are several, and depending on the species, but let's just pick deer, because a lot of people that get into hunting want to start hunting deer. That's not what I would advise. I would advise you to start with small game, like a game bird. And here's why. A lot of people are real trepidatious. They're really concerned about, how do I clean this animal? I got a deer down. I have no idea what I'm doing. Well, it's a lot easier nut to crack if it's like a quail or a dove. It's a lot easier for people to learn how to clean. So that's my advice, is start with, an upland game bird of some sort. Pretty forgiving. They're really mild tasting. They're pretty easy to clean. So I would say start there. But going back to method, like how are you going to hunt these? If we go to deer, because there's a lot of different ways you can hunt deer, right? Your place where you're going to hunt may dictate that, right? If you are hunting, let's say 40 acres, well, you're probably not doing a lot of tracking on that small piece of land. You're probably sitting or stand hunting, which is what a lot of people on the East Coast do. So where are you going to set up your stand? How are you going to do that? I'm not saying you need an artificial stand. I wouldn't even do that if you're getting started out. I would just, where are you going to sit? Where are you going to be? How are you going to get there quietly? Start thinking about that. If you're going to track or still hunt. And actually, still hunting is what I would recommend, just because I find it the most enjoyable for me. Some people just like to sit all day. I grew up hunting that way. I can't stand it, really. I'll do it if I have to, but I still like hunting. I still like being out there, but I much prefer still hunting, which is, if you don't overcomplicate it, just walking around the woods with your weapon. Just observing, keeping your eyes open, trying to walk quietly. This is something you should be doing now when you get in the woods. Focus on walking quietly. And however quiet you think you're walking, you're probably way too loud. It still constantly amazes me when I take people that aren't used to being quiet in the woods, how loud they are. Just like it's amazing to me. It's like they're trying to be loud, and they're really not, but they just normally just bebop around town, just walking however they walk, placing their feet however they place them. When you're trying to walk quietly in the woods, still hunting, or even if you're in one place, trying to get into and out of that position, focus on every single step and how to place your feet and how to be quiet. You need to start focusing on that now when you get in the woods. So once you've got that comfortable clothing, and your footwear, we've got that equipment kind of tackled, start walking around and trying to be quiet in your environment and observe, keeping your eyes open in the environment. And if you are going to sit in one place and hunt, how do you get into and out of that place? You might go in this time of year before hunting season with a machete or whatever to make sure you can get in and out of those places. How do you maximize that, being quiet, getting into and out of those places? Have a couple of spots, have a couple of backup spots, but just walk around with your garments, with your clothing, and observe. If you're hunting a pretty small chunk of land where it's pretty hard for you to get lost and you're only going to hunt a few hours at a time, you probably don't need much. I have a compass, have one of those emergency survival blankets probably. like those Mylar blankets, just in case you get really bad injured and you can't get out or something like that. But you really don't need a whole lot. Don't overcomplicate it. You got your clothing. You got that blanket. If you're just getting started and you go one day and it starts pouring down rain and you start getting hypothermic, just leave. Just walk back to your truck or your car or whatever. If you're hunting bigger pieces of land, you're probably going to want a decent survival kit, which I'm not going to tackle here, but way to start a fire, way to procure water, way to regulate your body heat beyond just your clothing. Things like that, basic survival stuff. You might want to think about that. I'm not going to get too far into that because that would be an entire episode. But start getting that stuff together now. How are you going to carry it when you're walking around the woods so it's comfortable and it's not making you loud or getting in the way? So, again, start figuring that stuff out now when you're walking around the woods. But get your basic survival needs kit. If you're going to be out more than a couple hours, you might want to bring snacks. Figure things out like that. What are some good go-to snacks that you can eat that aren't loud, that aren't noisy, that aren't wrapped in cellophane or whatever, if you're going to be out there all day. So think about that. Think about how much water you need, or can you get water on the landscape, right? If you're hunting in, southern Arizona, probably you need to carry all the water in that you're going to get in most places. If you're hunting somewhere with a ton of water that you can purify, that's a different story. So you might start thinking about how you're going to get water. Again, if you're going to be out for multiple days, you're going to be out for an afternoon, just carry a bottle of water if you think you even want it or need it. But those are things to think about, and you'll get that by walking around and just, adjust for what the temperature difference is going to be. You're also going to want a knife when you're out there walking around and for hunting. Don't overthink this, guys. And I could do a whole thing on good, cheap knives, but if you already have a bunch of knives, then just pick one. Pick one big enough to do the job that you're looking for. And don't think you need some giant Rambo knife. Actually, I think they're kind of more of a hindrance a lot of times than a help. Get a good, 3 to 5 inch fixed blade knife or a decent folding knife. One of my go-to general recommendations, hunting, guiding, whatever, a buck 110 slim. They're not expensive. They make some expensive models, but a buck 110 slim will do everything you need it to do, from processing an elk to a mourning dove, right? You got a buck 110 slim in your pocket, you're good. And a lot of people like folding knives in their pocket. If you want a decent, fixed blade knife that's affordable, get a N.R.A or something like a N.R.A that's, a decent knife that you can carry on your belt. I tend to prefer fixed blades, but a good folder is fine too. Don't overthink it, but have a knife on you. You just, as a man, you should have one on you all the time anyway. But you might have a slightly different one if you're going out to hunt than you generally EDC. You maybe not. Maybe your EDC knife is fine for this. But make sure you have a knife. All right. I am the host of Gunfighter Life Podcast. I could talk about hunting guns for a long, long time. Here is my recommendation, though. If you're getting started in hunting, get or take, if you already have, a decent shotgun. Pump shotgun, semi-auto shotgun. If a single shot is all you have or can afford, do that. I grew up hunting with single shot shotgun. You can take, if we're talking, and you got to make sure, again, legalities. Some places have silly rules, but even a 410. I hunted with a 410 growing up. But 20 gauge, 12 gauge shotgun. Why? Because you can hunt all kinds of stuff with it. Getting back to, maybe you want to start out hunting quail or dove or something simple that's easy to clean, easy to process, easy to cook. A lot of simple recipes for it. Not overwhelming, not hard to identify a lot of times. So you might want to start there, and a shotgun's great for that. And if you decide later you want to hunt deer, great for that too. There's nothing in North America that you can legally hunt that you can't hunt with a 12 gauge. I've taken everything from quail to bear to elk with a 12 gauge. Yeah, you just change out the load. It's one of the reasons I love the shotgun. It's so versatile. Now, are you going to give up some shots on longer shots and stuff? Yeah, but if you want an all-around shotgun for the money to hunt all kinds of stuff, because you don't know if you're getting into hunting what kind of hunting you're going to like, get a shotgun. Get a Maverick 88 affordable pump shotgun, appropriate for hunting, or any other good affordable pump shotgun. You can go semi-auto if you want. And I like semi-auto shotguns for a lot of reasons, but pumps are generally more affordable. Get a decent pump shotgun, 20 gauge, 12 gauge. It matters a lot less than you actually being out there and learning how to walk quietly in the woods with your shotgun. If you're just like, I'm going to start deer hunting and I want a rifle, get a good bolt action 308. If you want something else, fine. But if you just want a recommendation for a new hunter, a good bolt action 308, a Savage 110 family or a Savage Axis or a Ruger American. There's a bunch of others, but just without muddying the waters, pick one of those, get it in 308. If you want some other caliber because you just heard so much about it and you want to be, just like Jack O'Connor or something, get a 270, get a 30-06. They're all fantastic. If it's got a good reputation for hunting the game that you're hunting, that's fine. There are a ton of other new calibers out there. I'd say stay away from them. But even if you decide you want something else later, I don't think you'd regret having a good bolt action 308. So get a good bolt action 308. And then find a good hunting ammo. Again, I don't want to muddy the waters. There's a lot of good hunting ammo, but for the appropriate game, let's say deer, because a lot of you are going to hunt deer. Something with a good solid reputation. A Remington Core Lock, a Federal Power Shock, a Winchester Power Point. A good hunting bullet. Don't get a target bullet. I know people hunt with target bullets, and there's a big controversy about it. You should not if you're a brand new hunter. That's my advice. Get a good hunting bullet made for hunting that's got a reputation over decades of being good for hunting the game that you're hunting. What did I say? 308, 150 grain Remington Core Lock. Or, you find out what your rifle likes. I assume if you're doing this, you already know how to shoot. That's a whole other episode. You already know about guns and how to shoot, but find a load that gun likes. Maybe it doesn't like 150 grain Remington Core Locks. Maybe it likes 150 grain Federal Power Shocks. Okay, pick one, and then get your gun, get it zeroed, for all around hunting, 3 to 9 is kind of the standard. You might want something else later. I would say don't go any bigger than that. But 3 to 9 is fine. 3 to 9 optic on there. Most rifles nowadays don't even come with iron sights, which I think is a tragedy. But it's the world we live in. So just get one, get the optic on it, get it zeroed. If you're brand new to this, I would say get one that already comes with an optic on it. Like get the kit. A lot of people, they think, it can't be that hard, and they really mess up mounting an optic. So if you don't know exactly what you're doing mounting an optic, either pay somebody else to do it or just get one that already has an optic on it. That's my advice. But get your gun zeroed. I like to zero at 50 yards. You can do inch high at 100 or whatever, but just pick a good rifle, good ammo that shoots well out of that gun, and get a good zero on it, and then dry fire a bunch. Any good modern centerfire rifle is fine and safe to dry fire, meaning take the ammunition out and practice, get familiar with the gun, not just actually firing, but practice getting that gun up and into your shoulder and taking the safety off in like one swift motion. Practice that if you're going to be a stand hunter or a sitting hunter. Practice a lot doing that from a sitting position. If you're going to be a stalker or a still hunter, and still might confuse you. Still hunting just means like kind of walking slowly through the woods to not overcomplicate it. There's a lot more to it than that, but practice, walking around and bringing the gun up to your shoulder and taking the safety off. That's a big part of it. And then practice whatever positions, if you're still hunting or stalking or tracking, practice, in my experience, mostly shooting offhand, meaning standing unsupported, just shooting from a standing position. Yes, you can do that. You don't need a giant obese rifle with a tripod. You can actually shoot, on your two legs. Right? So practice walking around, stopping, bringing the gun up to your shoulder, taking the safety off, and shooting. And then practice your follow-up shots. All dry fire. You can do all this dry fire without firing live ammunition. Practice that. Get good with it. Or going back to the shotgun, practice the same thing. Practice bringing the gun up to your shoulder quickly, acquiring the appropriate sight picture, and getting a shot off. All right, so you're a big chunk of the way there, right? So now you get your hunting license when it's time. Grab that weapon that you selected, your knife, your basic survival kit if you need one, and go out there and spend time in the woods. You could have the best gear in the world, and we hyper-fixate on gear and caliber and this thing or that thing. You could have the best hunting rifle and the best caliber that's, sub-quarter MOA, and you're not going to kill anything if you're not in the woods. if you're not where the animal is. You're not going to kill anything. So just get whatever you have and spend time in the woods. Spend time either sitting, getting there before it gets light, and or getting there in the evening until after sunset, and spend time in the woods, spend time walking around, spend time in the environment. Are you going to be great when you start out hunting? Probably not, right? You're going to have to learn it just like everything else. You're going to have to learn how to do it. But you do that by investing your time, your energy, doing it. And hopefully you really love it and enjoy being out there. And here's the great thing I enjoy about hunting is you get to be out there in the beauty of God's creation, whether you shoot something or not, right? I have great times all the time hunting, whether I kill anything or not. I do like to put meat on the table for my family. I like to slay a beast and be able to feed my family with it, and I don't apologize for that. But if I'm just out there in the woods, away from alarms and streets and vehicles, and I'm just out there in the woods, I really enjoy that, whether I see anything or not, or whether I shoot anything or not. Maybe sometimes I just see something really cool, and it's just great being out there. So get out there, get your weapon zeroed, get your kit, get your appropriate clothing, and just get out there. Like so many other things in life, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it if you're paying attention and trying to apply yourself. Again, our forefathers figured it out. You can too. This is barely scratching the surface of hunting. I know it's super simple. I know I left a bunch of stuff out for all you guys that are avid hunters, right? This is a podcast. I'm trying to keep it in. It is already longer than an average podcast for me. I'm trying to make it simple to get more people into hunting. If you know somebody that personally wants to get into hunting and you're an avid hunter, you can share this podcast, obviously, this episode with them. That'd be great. But mentor them. It's a lot easier with a mentor. As great as podcasts are, they're not the best for learning everything. Sometimes a mentor, an apprenticeship is a fantastic thing. So take somebody out. Teach them how to hunt. And that old adage, teach a man to fish, or teach a man to hunt, the same thing. Okay, I think that's long enough. Tactical tip, and I don't mean this at all ironically, just with hunting, just like everything else in life, pray. All wisdom starts with God. He is the source of all wisdom. You want to figure out how to do something, pray about it. Pray for wisdom. Right? All wisdom comes from God. So pray for wisdom, whether it's this or a relationship or a career. Pray for wisdom. This is no different. Why would it be? And your tactical verse of the day, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Talking about whether it's me trying to help you figure out how to hunt on the podcast, or you actually taking somebody out and teaching them how to hunt. Let's sharpen each other. Let's make each other better as men, more capable in many other ways. But this is one. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.